You're about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show, 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So the spring kicks my butt when it comes to allergies, but so does the autumn. And I think we underestimate how much autumn can kind of disrupt our allergies and our eye care and our nose care and our breathing. And, you know, we love the autumn time. It's actually one of my favorite seasons, but it does create challenges for our eye health. Why? Because we have dry indoor heat, ragweed allergens, and increased screen time. So joining us today, I am so excited back on the show, is optometrist Dr. Elise Kramer. She is teaming up with TheraTears to share timely tips for dry eye sufferers. Dr. Kramer specializes in ocular surface disease and specialty contact lens design and has lectured worldwide on eye health. Welcome back, Dr. Elise Kramer.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much.
Gosh, I love that you're here. So talk to us about why the fall season could be a pretty big concern for people's eye care.
Yeah, so, eye health connects directly to overall well-being, and I love the fall. It's one of my favorite seasons, too. But it does, as you mentioned, create a lot of challenges for dry eye sufferers. And just like you said, that dehydrated air from heating systems, the ragweed, allergies, increased screen use also. These are all things that can trigger irritation, dryness, fatigue, and that's why I've partnered with TheraTears to remind everyone that caring for dry eyes isn't just about comfort, but it's also about finding solutions for long-lasting relief.
So true. You know, you hear the term, it's a science. You know, what makes that phrase so key for eye care?
Yeah. So It's a Science captures how TheraTears is more than just soothing drops. It really delivers all 5 critical electrolytes in a science-backed formula that mirrors your natural tears. So TheraTears has 5 vital electrolytes that we find in our natural tears, like sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and bicarbonate. And that balance supports hydration that lasts, and that can really make a difference even when seasonal dryness is really bad.
Absolutely. So, you know, a lot of us suffer from dry eyes. And so what do you recommend for relief?
So, most people don't really understand that electrolytes are the unsung heroes of your natural tears. So think of your tear film as a delicate ecosystem. When it's out of balance and your eyes lose water, then you feel the burn. TheraTears is the only over-the-counter dry eye drop with those 5 vital electrolytes I was talking about, and that formula restores moisture and balance. So it doesn't just cover up symptoms, it really replenishes what the eyes are missing. And so for people who are struggling through that dry fall air, that can really mean comfort that lasts.
Absolutely. You know, what are some other benefits using these science-backed eye care?
Yeah, so when eye care is science-backed, like with TheraTears, these key ingredients work together to support hydrated and balanced eyes, and that leaves them feeling nourished and comfortable. And without them, sometimes we don't produce enough tears, and sometimes we produce enough tears, but they evaporate too quickly, and that can cause tear film instability or salt imbalance, and that can cause irritation, dryness, and inflammation, which causes more tear film instability, which causes more inflammation. So it's this vicious cycle that we need to interrupt. And TheraTears really gives that patient peace of mind, knowing that they're using something that's created by experts, that's proven in studies with long-lasting relief, and that level of science gives you more than just comfort. It really gives you that belief that you're using something that's really effective.
So true. We're speaking to optometrist Dr. Elise Kramer. You know, we take care of our skin, we do our moisturizing skin care, we take care of our teeth. You know, we neglect our eyes. I mean, I know I did. And so, you know, talk to us about other solutions that we should be thinking about that are available for our eye care needs.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that, like, every eye is different. Every patient's different. Everyone's different. And TheraTears addresses that with options like preservative-free drops. They've got gel formulas for overnight relief, products for every day and all day. And that range of products really allows people to choose what works best for their lifestyle. So whether it's work, whether they're outdoors studying and they're going out, it's nighttime. And also, don't wait until discomfort becomes a bigger problem. Try to address it early. The earlier you treat something, the less, exacerbated it gets. And there's simple steps that we can also take at home or in the office, like adjusting indoor humidity, staying hydrated, so drinking water is super important. And then we all forget to blink, especially when we're on our screen. So just
So
taking
true.
breaks, blinking, and I like to tell people to leave their TheraTears actually next to their computer, so it gives them, that reminder that they need to use the drops and blink and take breaks. And for persistent dryness, options like TheraTears can make a real difference. So to everyone listening, prioritizing eye health now means better comfort and protection throughout this entire season.
Absolutely. It's funny. My kids tell me that my dog never sleeps, and my dog actually sleeps with her eyes open. And so, she just sit there, looks like she's staring. And I'm like, oh, that poor thing. Her eyes
Wow.
must be so dry. So thank you, Dr. Elise Kramer. Where can my
Probably, yeah.
listeners go for more information?
Yeah, so for more information and resources, you can check out theratears.com. So that's THERA tears.com.
Wow. Well, I cannot wait to have you back. Thank you for all you do. This was so informative, and have a great fall season.
You too. Thank you.
You take care. All right, guys, don't go away. We'll be right back. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon, or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media.
back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show. Sorry, I had to clear my gullet. And, my gullet. And big thanks to you all for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. So, one thing is a really pet peeve of mine, but I don't want to say it's a pet peeve. It's just once I look for it, I can't not see it. Are people saying when they speak? I do it too. But I will watch, news anchors. I will watch people interviewing, and I'll hear the and then I'm like, okay, are they saying a lot? And then you'll see they do it a lot, and they'll actually end every sentence or proceed every sentence with the term And the more you look for it, the more common you see it. And it drives you crazy. There's also other things people will do when they speak. And when I was in, I think it was 8th grade, I took debate class. It was either 5th, 6th, or doesn't matter. But I would be in debate class, and the teacher would rip all of us new ones for saying Now, in medical school, they never really taught us about that, in terms of how your brain processes speech, etc. However, when you had a student throughout school who would maybe speak quickly, and the teacher or professor would say, you have to speak slower. You have to speak slower. They would be trained to pause. And to teach yourself to pause and slow down, you'll use the So you have people like me that will either speak too quickly, or now they break their speech with an or another word. And once you look at it, I see a lot of people do this. It could drive you crazy. So I just try to filter it out. I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to listen to it. I'm not going to listen to it. But for some of us, we need to figure out how to find that balance. And it's interesting because in American culture, we use In other cultures, like in Israel, it's maze. Why the way they speak, they'll do eh. And I remember my father speaking like that all the time. What are you doing? He would start every sentence with that. And so it's not necessarily a disability. It's not necessarily something wrong in the human nature, in psychology or in communication, I should say, communication. When you want somebody to focus on you, that might be subconscious, where you go into it saying, all right, I notice with patients, they say all the time. And they do that to tell me that they're going to still speak. They have more to say. So that word, is a preposition, a preposition. That preposition is used as not only a placeholder in your thought, but a placeholder for your listener. So when you punctuate a sentence and you finish with a period, many people will start thinking, moving on, going about their lives. But when you say and, they know back to focus. That person is going to be speaking. And the funny thing is, which a lot of people don't realize, is since we now have people on their phones and social media and etc., I am seeing and hearing more of this because people want to stop all the distraction, to stop all the I'm not paying attention to you. So if you are now in public speaking and you have individuals saying you can't do the ums, you can't do the ands, you can't do the You can't do those. How do you maintain that level of concentration, focus, and attention to what you're saying? And it's interesting because it's part of our vernacular. It's a very American thing to say that. Some of us do it too much. Some of us will use other terms. And once you see it and hear it, you can't do it. So if you're in public speaking, you have your hands. When you're on radio, nobody can see you. So you can't use your hands. But public speaking is a lot easier because you could hold your fingers up. You could say now. That's another thing you could do now. You could use another sort of, is it a preposition? Is the word I'm looking for? Wait. Hold on. You could do that prior to a sentence, but that gets old. But you could use hand movements and then start to speak. But it's tricky because if it's a habit where you use these words to, it's interesting because I see professors do this all the time. You know, you'll watch their lectures and they just go, And you're like, gosh, you do that a lot. So how do you stop that without that being annoying? Well, one, we also need to have listeners less sensitive to it. Because, boy, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I tell you, it's really hard to watch the news when I see somebody who says it. He's like, oh, man. And then you focus on what they're saying. So you have to kind of grow a lack of sensitivity to it. You have to become a little insensitive to it. But the other thing, too, is we have to figure out how we are going to, one, maintain somebody's attention, two, bridge your thoughts, and three, speak slower. Now, speaking too quickly is something that plagues many of us. And as I've said, my teachers, I went to 12 schools. The majority of them said I spoke too fast. I need to slow it down and use words in between my thoughts. Slow it down, slow it down, slow it down. So you're going to have to, though, come up with something because people don't like, It's tricky. So my recommendation would be try to use more of your hands. Try to explain that you are going to speak slow. I think that always helps. When I tell people what I'm about to do, I notice it might last only 5 minutes, but I tell people this is what I'm about to do. And utilize the pauses. Now in radio, it took me a while to learn how to pause because I noticed other radio hosts will do that. They'll say something and you aren't listening, and then all of a sudden there'll be some radio silence. Like, what did he say? And then they repeat it. It's a technique a lot of people in radio do. Yeah. They go, this election was a mandate by the American people. Now that's slow. I probably put somebody to sleep. Whatever. That's just a random sentence. Not very flowy, not easy to keep up, but it allows you to not necessarily put those ums in, etc. If, however, you do use silence as a attention grabber, you need to repeat the second thing you say. Hurricane season is going to be above average. Above average. Sometimes you do. Now, people will say, but you're repeating yourself. You're repeating yourself too much. Yeah, well, you got to pick one, okay? You're mad if I use You're mad if I speak too quickly. You're mad if I use my hands too much. You got to pick one, okay? Complain about one thing and then leave me alone. Leave me alone. But there's look at your speech. What I recommend you do is videotape yourself or listen to yourself. And you'll see what other people see. And if it annoys you, it annoys other people. Trust me, I think I annoy the world when I'm on air. And I feel bad for you guys. I wish I had a prettier voice. I really do. And I really wish I didn't stammer or stutter or lisp, which is, by the way, another thing. For those of us that have had lisps and stutters, many of us utilized the to stop that. And I overcame my speech issues using those break words. So, but you could only use it as a crutch for so often. And every now and then you'll get a little of my stutter. Every now and then you'll get a little bit, but look, you do what you have to do. But there's little tricks. So hope it works. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I am blown away at how poorly disciplined other people's kids are. Now, I didn't beat my kids. I might have threatened to. I'm going to whoop your little asses. But I never did because I didn't like the beatings that I got. And so I would do shall we say, a diversified way of punishment, taking things away, saying we were going to go to Disneyland, but now you lost it. I did a point system, which really worked the best. The point system did the best, where I would have a sheet of paper or a board in their room, and when they would do something good, I would draw a little hashtag or hash marks, right? You know where you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then slash it for 5. And I would put these little marks. And if they hit a certain amount, we would go and see the movie Ratatouille. Or we would go to a party with their friends. Or we would go to Disneyland. And that would be a lot of marks. I mean, it would take a year for them to hit. However, if they were bad boys and they did something they weren't supposed to do and they made mommy mad, I would remove some of them. One time, I was so ticked off at them that I ripped the whole page down and said, that's it, no more. And it was great because I didn't have to hit them. I told you they were giving each other the middle finger, and I wanted them to stop, and they wouldn't do it. So I grabbed my very sparkly, glittery nail polish. I painted their middle finger nail. They kept that middle finger hidden for years. In fact, I still did not see them get. Now, there are other ways to make the gesture, but that stopped that. So I came up with ways to discipline them. But I look and I see with these other kids how they talk to their parents, how they act. And trust me, my kids backtalk. I can't tell you how much time I spent trying to teach them how to talk, only for them to learn how to backtalk. How did I miss that lesson to teach them to not backtalk? I don't know. But I'll be taking care of patients online. Some of these kids sitting in mommy's lap, behaving. Others rude, smacking their parents. And we're mixed in society with the best way to discipline, because we don't want to do what we had growing up, because that could put you in jail these days. But you also don't want to be too soft. Now, me and my husband went the other way. My husband wouldn't hit the kids, and I was so grateful for that because I was so worried I would marry somebody who would beat the kids. And I'm very glad that that didn't happen. I picked a good guy. Corey's a good guy. But he was sometimes too soft, and I had to yell and scream. I tried to do a spoon. We had this spoon that was aluminum, and because I didn't want splinters. And when they were younger, it was a kind of a flat scooper spoon. I don't know what it was. And so I would say, get the spoon, and they would giggle. And I smacked myself on the butt with it. It didn't even hit. It was, see, for me, when I got spanked, like in school, they used to spank us in school in the 80s. It was the embarrassment of having to go up and get spanked. Now, the kids were laughing. Spankings didn't work. But one of my friends had said, your kids still need to fear you. And they need to not fear you in that you will beat them or hurt them, but that it's much easier to follow what you say than what their life is going to be like if you don't follow what I say. And that taught me how to discipline my kids without hitting them. And how do I make my kids miserable? Make them listen to your show. No, that's too cruel. I couldn't do that. How I notice, I get quiet. When I'm mad in general, I just get quiet. You would think I would yell and scream. No, I don't. Maybe it's because I grew up with that. I get quiet. And one of my kids was kind of rude to me. Backtalked me the other day. And I should have said, don't backtalk me. Don't be talking to your mama like that. I'm going to beat your butt. But no. Look, they're adult kids. So I'm not going to say that. Because then they're going to try to defend. But instead, I just got quiet. And all of a sudden, I noticed he tried to speak to me kinder. It works. Now, I'm not saying do the silent treatment all the time. But sometimes you could figure out what exactly makes somebody understand that wasn't right. It's not a behavior. Talking is the best. But unfortunately, people will say, well, that wasn't back talking. You asked me a stupid question. So I was exacerbated and I do ask stupid questions, but still. But what do we do when it's not your kid? What if it's in school and teachers are at a loss? Teachers, they have so many benchmarks that they have to reach in terms of teaching kids and making sure no child left behind. And then you have somebody acting out in class. Now, I taught Sunday school. I've taught various levels. And I actually like the class clown because I was the class clown. And so there's a place in my heart for the class clown. And what is the class clown doing? Well, the class clown for me, and remember I went to 12 schools, was one, if you are a comedian, you cannot, it is a sin to give up a pitch and not knock it out of the ballpark with a comment. So if your teacher pitches something to you without knowing, and it is something that you can make a punchline out of, you feel bad. You feel like you're doing something wrong. I felt that way. It's weird. And I'm not a true comedian. But you cannot let go of something that should be either, I guess, hit. If it's a funny pitch. I wish I could explain it better. And so when you understand what these kids are doing, you can say, look, there's a time and place. You could be very, very funny. I know you could be funny. But when you do it in class, it's not funny. You could get in trouble. And I want you to have longevity with your funniness. I don't want you to be getting kicked out of school. And I actually sat down and talked to this kid saying, I get you. And honestly, what you said, that was funny. But you can't do it anymore in my class. And I established some respect. Once they understood it's those 3 E's, you got to engage, you got to educate and enlist. I engaged them by saying, I get you. I educated them on why, though, you can't do it, and then enlist. Got to stop the jokes. You can do them after class. I don't even care if you make fun of me at recess. But in class, We got to get you through. If not, principal's going to call your dad. Oh, no, don't call my dad. So depending on the age group, it's easy. When it's teenagers, I don't know how these teachers do it. I've spoken at high schools where they're just sitting there on their phone, not paying attention, giving you the and the eye roll. That's not easy. And now you're starting to see many schools draft bills on how to do student discipline. Student discipline has taken a turn because many school districts say if you suspend or discipline a child, that could be construed as discriminatory. But it used to be you do the time, you do the crime. I'm sorry, you do the crime, you do the time, where every act is treated the same. But if some schools aren't doing that, where because one parent is a donor, so that kid gets just a note for detention, whereas somebody else gets suspended, expelled. No, that's not cool. There has to be an even, consistent plan. On the other end, we stopped suspending and disciplinating kids because people said that was discriminatory, but they were, bringing guns to school. So there's rules now that many states are starting to create. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did, and just maybe someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So for years, I've been talking about some of the risks with antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication. Even though they may do amazing in terms of curbing somebody's anxiety, somebody's depression, there could be some problems when they start to feel better. So, for example, when somebody is really, really depressed and we start to treat them and they start to feel better, sometimes that coming from that abyss right there is the most, shall we say, vulnerable in terms of them deciding suicidality. When they're at the abyss, oftentimes people are so depressed that they just don't have the energy to try to kill themselves or the motivation to. But once they start feeling better, they go, you know what, I'm going to do it. And so when you do treat somebody with depression, if they say, I'm feeling better, I'm starting to feel better right away, you don't just go off and say, great, I'll see you in a couple weeks. You need to watch them closely because they could be feeling better to the point where they decide to act on things that they've wanted to act on before. But another issue we also have with antidepressants is the going off of them. What if somebody doesn't get the prescription filled? What if the pharmacy runs out? What if their insurance switches? What if they can't afford the copay? And so a big issue we've been having, which we've discussed on the show over the years, are some of these people, that these criminals or mass shooters or suicide attempts or suicide committing individuals, in that window of, I haven't gotten my medication and I went from doing well to now the abyss. You know, we speak about this with Ozempic and Zepbound and Wegovy, these weight loss drugs. Everybody's talking about how when you go on them, the heart health, the decrease in, so many risk factors for your liver, your kidneys, your heart, going on these medications and losing the weight, how quickly you could protect, vital organs and health. But we need to know the studies of the people that go off of them. How quickly is the rebound and how bad is that? So we've spoken for years of people going off of these antidepressants. Well, whether it's withdrawal symptoms, whether it's them not being able to get their medication that they need, their behavior could be erratic, could be inconsistent, could be deadly to them or to others, depending on what they were taking and what they were taking it for. And so when you start an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety medication, you have to be there for the after. Yeah, I teach medical students this all the time. If you're going to start an ADHD medication, then what? So if that child needs it, for third grade, what are you going to do when they're in fifth grade? What about high school? Are they going to also then need it for college? Are they going to need it for a job? Starting a medication is easy. I could write a prescription, piece of cake. But now you got to manage it. And you also have to decide, when do they go off? When do they not need it? And so there's a process that many doctors aren't following because they don't see you again. You only see a doctor once and then you get somebody new. See, I was trained as a family doctor. So you used to see me for years. I loved it because I could say, wait a second, back in 2004, you did this, but then in 2007, you reacted better. I mean, I hadn't, even if I didn't have the chart, I remembered because I was taking care of them for so long. Now the average person sees a different doctor every time. So the doctor's like, well, here's your prescription, here's your refill. Who's doing that long-term management? Well, a study out of the UK said, look, not only do we have to worry about withdrawal symptoms in the short term, but long term. And the longer you're on a medication, the longer your withdrawal symptoms can go. So according to a study out of the UK, they surveyed NHS patients, which is their health system, and found that people who had used antidepressants for more than 2 years were 10 times more likely to have withdrawal effects, 5 times more likely for those effects to be severe. This is if you were on them for more than 2 years, and 18 times more likely for them to be long-lasting compared to those who only took the drugs for 6 months or less. For patients who used antidepressants for less than 6 months, withdrawal symptoms were mostly mild and brief. 3/4 reported no or mild symptoms, most of which lasted less than 4 weeks. Only 1 in 4 of these patients, this is being reported by Science Alert, was unable to stop when they wanted to. But for long-term users, more than 2 years of use of antidepressants, 2/3 reported moderate to severe withdrawal effects, 1/4 reporting severe withdrawal effects. So for individuals, in fact, 1/3 of long-term users had symptoms for 3 months. 4/5 of those patients just couldn't stop their antidepressants. They had to go back on them. Now, in the UK, 2 million people are on antidepressants. In the US, 25 million people. Now, there's a bunch of different types of antidepressants. But we spoke about how one group works, the SSRIs, the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Basically, when your body shoots out serotonin, the serotonin helps with your mood, with your pain control. Serotonin is involved in a lot of bodily functions, your bowel. And so a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor selectively inhibits the reuptake of the serotonin, so more of it gets to still stay active in the system before it gets scooped up. Well, your body will start to compensate and make more of these receptors, open them up again, open up more receptors. So now if you went from Prozac 10, let's say, or Paxil 10, all right, now you're going to have to go up to Paxil 20, and then, or Prozac 20, and then Prozac 40. And let's say you stop the medication. Now you have all these receptors that have now been compensatorily created, now empty. So when you do shoot out your natural serotonin, zoop, it gets sucked up fast. And so withdrawal from an SSRI is real. Withdrawal from an SNRI is real. If your brain is getting used to the dopamine and the epinephrine and then it doesn't get it anymore. Now, I'm not saying don't go on them. If you need to be on them, you need to go on them. Life is too short. And to manage depression and anxiety properly, it's not only medications, but therapy and a whole comprehensive plan, exercise, diet. But we have a system in medicine now where I fear January 1. Every January 1, I am seeing millions of people either lose their insurance or have to switch. Their employer is paying high rates, so they switch to a company where the rates might be cheaper. I've had to change insurance multiple times, and I have personal health insurance. Why? Because a company decides to skyrocket the rates. They say, well, we have to pay for people and their Wegovy. I go, I'm not on Wegovy. Well, we have to pay for that. So then I'm like, well, I'm going to drop you and I'm going to find a cheaper insurance. So the problem is every time your insurance changes, thank God I'm not on any chronic medications. The only thing I take is some bioidentical hormones, which I pay cash for. Insurance doesn't even pay for that for me. Because they don't, which I still don't understand why I'm paying for insurance, but neither here nor there. So the average person runs the risk of losing their medication or losing their medication coverage or having to switch. That's why we always recommend generic, because most insurance companies cover generic. But if somebody doesn't get their medication, what happens in that short term? What happens in that long term? And sometimes these withdrawal symptoms are something you internally have to deal with, where you can't sleep and you're not feeling well. But for some people, they lash out to other individuals. And so I agree that if somebody is on medication and somebody needs medication, you have to be prepared for what happens if they don't get that medication. Now, for mild depression, mild anxiety, we don't want you on the medicine long term. Many of these medications are looked at as, what to do in the short term. Somebody died, you lost a job. But, there's many people that get dependent on them. And now they're on them long term. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA-1. That's 800-JBS-USA-1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA-1 today.